if Brock Purdy is healthy and there's no further risk of injury, I would go back to Brock Purdy because he gives that element of athleticism and escapability in the back end. You're a more dynamic offense is currently constructed with the players that you have if you go back to Brock Purdy.
I wonder about the Niners in that same vein, who run a lot of 21 personnel and the way they use Juice, the fullback. Are there things that Shanahan needs to kind of innovate away from in order to, I don't know, be a little bit more of an explosive offense now?
I don't know. I don't think I would say that is true. I think that, I think it has a lot more to do with who's playing up front for you and obviously who's on the edges. I mean, when you don't fear playing one-on-one coverage with people, you can commit to stopping McCaffrey. You can commit to stopping a lot of that stuff that teams do. And ultimately, right now, from a passing game standpoint, name one dude that puts fear into your heart when you say, "Hey, we got to go man to man on this guy." And frankly, I would just argue that's probably nobody. I think about it from the position I played as an offensive lineman. One of the things we used to always say is, like, if you have not one guy who's a pass rusher that I'm afraid of going one-on-one with across the line of scrimmage, we're gonna whip your ass. Like, there's no two ways about it. Now, all of a sudden, when you get one pass rusher or two pass rushers that are a problem, then you guys become a real issue for us as a group in general. And so, because then you got to start committing guys to stopping the pass rush, to doing that. Now you're not getting anybody out. Now you're getting two or three guys out. And if your two or three guys can't beat man-to-man coverage, you're not going to win a lot of games. And so I think those are the things that we look at with San Francisco right now as a way to get some health back on that receiving core and across the board with their their organization. I think those are the problems that you get into.
Stink, we've got, let's see, Richard Sherman. We've got Brian Baldinger. We even sort of had Tom Brady getting lulled into they all have the same take right now. I know they lost, but Mac Jones was really good, and so it is. Stick with Mac Jones because he's the hot hand, even when Brock Purdy is in relative health. Would you care to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I still think, and I'm not one of these guys that is like, hey man, you lose your job. You can't lose your job to injury. Of course, you can lose your job to injury if the guy who comes in plays better than you. But Brock Purdy would give them an element of athleticism in the back end at the quarterback position that Mac Jones, frankly, doesn't have and never will have. And so while you're struggling with health and with health-related issues and lack of dynamic nature at the receiving core, I would definitely, me personally, if Brock Purdy is healthy and there's no further risk of injury, other than, the normal stuff that happens to you because you play football, I would go back to Brock Purdy because he gives that element of athleticism and escapability in the back end and maybe some a little bit more of the RPO type of game and some things that you have to contend with as a defense that, frankly, Mac Jones doesn't have. And I understand, he went 33-39 and had 300 yards passing, and I understand all those things. Of course, how much of that is underneath and how much of that is because you're behind in the game. And yeah, I understand the efficiency and stuff, but I think you're a more dynamic offense is currently constructed with the players that you have if you go back to Brock Purdy.
What sort of a problem does the Arizona defense pose, not only for Brock, but potentially Mac Jones as well?
Yeah, I think they're very well coached on that side of the ball. I think Sweat is a decent, good pass rusher. Still, Calais Campbell is still playing at a ridiculous level. It's unbelievable. They've got really good players on the back end. Buda Baker is a guy you always have to contend with. He's all over the place, has a blatant disregard for his own well-being, flies around at about 190 pounds and just tries to absolutely destroy people. They're good. They are a good defense. Yeah. Ultimately, to me, this is a really cool matchup because their defensive coordinator is a huge Kyle Shanahan fan. And so that matchup, like he is going to be jazzed up for that matchup. And that's going to be a really cool matchup for them. Ultimately, you look at Arizona offensively, you can say what you want, and I think Brissett has done a really good job for them, but he's a backup quarterback in this league, and the Arizona Cardinals, frankly, just aren't that good right now. You got one huge, big time problem is Trey McBride, but it'll be an interesting matchup to be sure.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about what you're mentioning there. That like the Arizona defensive staff is going to be all jacked up to face Kyle. I think that we out here in the Bay right now, Mark, we've got a fan base that in a way is struggling to get overly excited because it feels like a great year is kind of off the table because of everything that has happened on the defensive side of the ball. But you're a big Shanahan fan. I'm a big Shanahan fan. They are relatively healthy there, getting healthier. Maybe Purdy, maybe Pearsall joining this group. When you put all that together, is that offense good enough to essentially outscore teams and still leave an imprint on this season?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you bring it up because you sit there and say, "Hey, man, they're not playing very well, and we're probably not going to win the division, and this, that, and the other." And you guys have run away with a bunch of seasons and ultimately ended in disappointment. And to me, getting healthy at the right time, can you get healthy at the right time? Can you make a run at the right time? Can you, at the end of the year, be playing your best football? Because ultimately, it doesn't really matter until then. And I tell you what, I'd take a average season to compete for a championship and to play really well in the playoffs. I would take that any day of the week. So I still think you have that, that ability. If you get everybody healthy and if you start, playing better football. Defensively, I don't know. A lot of young guys, a lot of injuries on the defensive side of the ball, the lack of a legitimate threat at the pass rusher, that's going to make that hard. But just to get offensively, get back to feeling yourself, have some dynamic weapons on the outside with Pearsall coming back. And like you said, if Ayuk comes back, I don't know his story right now, but that could make a big difference.
I'm just fascinated by the way the Cardinals have gone about their quarterback situation where Kyler Murray is hurt and he's on IR, I guess, but it looks like they made a pivot to Brissett regardless of that. How would you size up the situation overall in Arizona at the quarterback position?
Yeah, I mean, I think they found out the most important thing is that Kyler Murray probably isn't their quarterback. And that's a great decision to make. And ultimately, I look at Kyler and, I think at the quarterback position, for the most part, consistently boring wins. That's what wins in the NFL. And Sports Center highlights are cool, but that doesn't win football games in the NFL. And for Kyler Murray, it always felt like to me, Sports Center, I want to lead the league in Sports Center highlights. And like you can lead the league in Sports Center highlights, but you're going to be 5 and whatever, 4 and whatever. I don't know the math anymore now that they went from 16 games. It was so easy back when it was 16 games.
Yeah.
I could say, hey, they're going to be 4 and 12. Now I got to add a game in there, so it'll be 4 and 13, I suppose. I'm not good, math. I was a general studies major from the University of Idaho. So you added that 17th game, and it's not even anymore. And none of it makes sense to me anymore. I just have given up. Yeah.
You know what, though? I think this comes up around the league a lot, Mark. And when you describe these two, I don't think you think they're similar in Kyler Murray and Brock Purdy, but maybe the situation is. I think that some people look at certain quarterbacks and they go, okay, this guy is good enough to take us to the playoffs, but maybe he's kind of a product of surroundings, or he's not good enough to get all the way over the top, like he's not a top 5 QB. What is usually the right thing to do? Like Dak Prescott, Derek Carr, what's the right thing to do when that's your guy? Is it to go ahead and pay the relevant quarterback or keep searching for great?
Yeah, well, I mean, the principle, I guess, for me is there's one Patrick Mahomes. You know,
Yep.
there's like there's 3 or 4 guys in the league right now that are that guy, and there are a bunch of others that aren't. And then there's some guys that are really, really good. And if you've got a guy that I think is really, really good, and you do in Purdy, then you can still win a championship, but you have to build around that guy. And I think the biggest thing about playing is not so much attacking somebody's weakness as it is mitigating your own. And so when you have a guy that can win and a guy that can lead you and a guy that is made of the right stuff, then it's about, but he maybe doesn't have a couple of physical tools that you would like. Then it's about mitigating those potential weaknesses and putting enough people and enough concepts around him for you to have win a championship. And those things, that stuff is done because there's only 4 teams that have the quarterback that could just carry them. But I would say of those teams, how many championships has Lamar won? How many championships has Josh Allen won? They also have some of their pitfalls. So those are the things that you have to look at. And I know we all want that unicorn playing quarterback for us, but unfortunately, they just don't make many of them.